Welcome back to the Enfield Talking newspaper. Now we return to local news with Janet.
Unemployed people in Edmonton could be given a boost in the coming weeks after Thames Water announced it would be looking for construction workers to help create a new revamped sewage works. Thames Water has been granted planning permission by Enfield Council for her £250 million revamp of the Deepham's plant in Pickett's Lock Lane. Since it was built in the 1950s, the plant has been a source of noxious stink that has blighted residents' lives throughout Edmonton. As climate change has brought hotter summers and wetter winters, the sewage work has been struggling to deal with the volume of sewage it has to process. The company has stressed that recruitment for construction and administration jobs is starting immediately in a bid to complete the multi-million-pound project by the autumn of 2018, and it has guaranteed that 20% of posts will be filled by people from Enfield and neighbouring boroughs. The plant treats sewage from more than 1 million homes and businesses, and Thames Water is hoping the expansion will mean that overflows of storm water will go into the River Lee and Salmons Brook. Nigel Watts, the head of wastewater treatment, said the team can't wait to get started on the project. He added, getting the go-ahead to make such significant improvements at Deepham's is a real boost and something which will benefit the surrounding area by reducing odour, making it fit for the future and creating jobs, many for local people. Andy Love, the MP for Edmonton, who has been a vocal campaigner against the stench, has cautiously welcomed the news. He said, "I'm pleased that Thames Water has listened to the concerns expressed in our lobbying for greater investment and measures to eliminate the odours at the works. Waterways will benefit as a result, and it will likely boost our wildlife and natural environment too."
Enfield North MP Nick Dubois says he is proud to have started up an annual jobs fair. The fair, which was the fourth of its kind to take place since the MP won his seat in 2010. Initial predictions suggest it was the biggest yet, with more than 780 people passing through the Southbury Leisure Centre's doors. More than 38 stalls were set out for companies ranging from McDonald's to Transport for London to offer advice and job opportunities. Mr. Dubois said, "I am very proud to have established a regular positive jobs fair in which many people have come and found jobs. We have seen a reduction in youth unemployment by nearly 50%, and overall unemployment is down by 42%. As well as the companies offering job opportunities, there was also an over 50s forum for area which gave advice to older people on how to get a job. Mr. Dubois said over 50s unemployment is still a real issue. Although it is falling, there is still more to be done, but this is certainly helping them on the right track." Anita Garrard of Stansted Airport told the Enfield Independent she was surprised by the level of interest in the fair. She said, "We could not believe how many suitable candidates put their name down to show interest in what we offered. We have had at least 100 people come to our stand, and it has been non-stop all day." Job seeker Ali Georgiou welcomed the assistance with his job hunt. He said, "It is comforting to see so many opportunities are out there and have been put on show today. I hope that everyone can reap the rewards." Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows added, "I have helped support Nick in his tireless work with the jobs fair, and what is so refreshing about this year's fair is the level of jobs on offer. We have seen a lot of advice leaflets given out, but also a lot of job opportunities on show, and that can only be good for the people of Enfield."
An MP is taking on rogue landlords of multiple occupancy homes whose tenants wreak havoc on their neighbours' lives. Nick Dubois, MP for Enfield North, tabled a 10-minute rule bill in the House of Commons in a bid to change the law to allow the Housing Ombudsman to intervene between neighbours and landlords. Currently, the rules only allow the Ombudsman to step in between a landlord and tenant, but Mr. Dubois believes robust action is needed to help residents living next to houses full of antisocial tenants brought into homes by agents working for absentee landlords. In the bill, landlords would be tracked down by the Housing Ombudsman and would be forced to enter into negotiations with neighbours. Mr. Dubois told the Advertiser he wanted to do something to change the current system after constituents approached him as a last resort. There are simply too many cases where neighbours who are trying to resolve issues such as distressing antisocial behaviour with some tenants in HMOs, where the landlords either are unaware of the problems their tenants are causing neighbours, or worse, do not care about it, he said. Presently, it can be very hard to even try to locate and identify landlords when residents are seeking to enlist landlord help in resolving what can be a very disturbing cycle of antisocial behaviour that all too often takes too long for authorities to sort out, if at all. Although a bid to put checks in place for private landlords with the Council's landlord licensing scheme includes a focus on antisocial behaviour, the MP dismissed it as mostly focused on health and safety issues that would amount to a tax on the good landlords as well as the bad. However, the Cabinet Member for Housing, Ahmed Oykner, told the Advertiser that the scheme remains the best way to close loopholes for rogue landlords. He said, "I am delighted to see that Nick Dubois recognises the link between antisocial behaviour and HMOs, and I would call on him to support Enfield Council's landlord licensing scheme, which I believe would prevent this sort of issue arising in the first place." Given the massive growth in the number of HMOs and the significant associated issues, I also believe the Housing Ombudsman would have to be expanded to successfully perform this role. And this proposal would not deal with the issue of minimum standards around homes. Only additional licensing of HMOs will achieve a better standard of management. At the time of going to press, the bill had been tabled and is set to be added to the Register of Parliamentary Business for a later reading.
A campaigner against knife crime has received a further boost in her bid to stop stabbings amongst teenagers in Enfield. Yvonne Lawson started the Godwin Lawson Foundation to tackle youth knife crime after her son Godwin was stabbed to death 3 years ago. Last year, the foundation ran a leadership project to help teenagers become young leaders at Godwin's former school, St Ignatius in Enfield. Mrs Lawson has now received £10,000 from the Big Lottery Fund to help pay for the scheme, as well as other projects to stop knife crime in the area. Mrs Lawson said, "I cannot describe how elated I am at this latest funding boost. It will allow us to fulfil our project for young women and address tensions between rival groups. We will also use the money to help start more early intervention programs to help tackle knife crime from an early age. Money has been tight, unfortunately, but we are hoping this money, along with the grant from Lloyds Bank at the end of last year, can go a long way." The foundation received £2,000 from the Lloyds Bank Community Fund in December, after receiving 25% of the votes in North London to scoop the money pot. Enfield North MP Nick Dubois, who has supported Mrs Lawson, said, "Yvonne's work continues to go from strength to strength, and I am delighted that the National Lottery have recognised the value and importance of what she has been doing and proposes to do with this tranche of funding. I think we should all be very proud of her work."
A mother is appealing for help to pay for a specialised wheelchair so her daughter can stand up straight for the first time. 4-year-old Leah Zenonos of Amberley Road in Bush Hill Park suffers from a rare type of spinal muscular atrophy which causes progressive muscle wasting and mobility impairment. Using a wheelchair, known as a Whizzybug, donated by a charity, Layla can get around in the home, but the chair has become too small for her. Leah's mother, Lucia, has been told the new wheelchair, which is designed for children aged 5 to 10, will cost £25,000. With Leah turning 5 next month, Ms. Zenonos turned to the internet to seek help and started a fundraising page. She told the Enfield Independent, "It is a lot of money, but the things it will be able to give her will be life-changing. The current wheelchair is too small and we will have to give it back soon, meaning she will go back to just lying down all day. It would be like taking her legs away." When her daughter was born, Miss Zenonos was told that 95% of babies born with this type of the disease do not make it past their first birthday, and the other 5% do not make it past their second. She added, "Leah is a miracle girl and deserves to have this wheelchair. It would allow her to sit at our dinner table at the right height and to sit on the floor to play with her brother and sister." She attends Raglan School, who have bent over backwards to accommodate her, and she'd be able to play with her friends with the new chair. Since starting a fundraising page 15 days ago, £3,389 has been donated to the cause, and the site has just 46 days left in order to collect the £25,000 total. To donate, visit www.indiegogo.com/projects/helping-Leah.
A businessman and TV show winner jetted out to Los Angeles after being invited to an Oscars event. Laban Rooms of Enfield made a name for himself after appearing on Dragon's Den to gain investment for his gold-plating business in 2007. The founder of Gold Genie presented his products at the annual Uptown Pre-Oscar Gala in West Hollywood, where he presented gold-plated phones to film director Lee Daniels and Selma actor David Oyelowo, who played Martin Luther King in the film. Mr. Rooms said, "I watched Selma as soon as it was released in the UK, and it is such an honour to be attending this event and celebrate the work of such enormous talent. We had a great evening, and it was magnificent to be given the chance to honour Lee and David in our own golden way."
A group of Enfield's brainiest youngsters teamed up with Middlesex University academic scientists to battle it out in a robot competition. 16 teenagers had been cherry-picked from the borough's secondary schools as part of a scheme designed to inspire them to take up a career in the world of science when they finish education. They spent a day in the Middlesex University Robotics Laboratory in the borough's Hendon, programming their machines before battling it out in the tabletop arena, pitching their palm-sized creations against each other in a test of agility to see which machine came out on top. In the end, Gure Memi from Winchmore School in Laburnum Grove and Mezam Islam from Nightingale Academy in Turin Road, Edmonton, won through, moving more marbles than any others from the centre of the table to their side of the arena. Middlesex University technical tutor Michael Heaney, who led the day's events, said, "This was a great way of making science and engineering exciting to the younger generation. It was a rare chance for the students to put the skills they have learned into practice in a fun and creative environment. There was a real competitive spirit in the air throughout the day, which certainly spurred the groups on. The 14 and 15-year-olds are the cream of the science crop from Year 10 at Nightingale Academy, Lee Valley High School in Balsmore Lane, Enfield, Bishop Stopford School in Brick Lane, Enfield, Edmonton County School in Great Cambridge Road, Broomfield School in Wilmer Way, St Ignatius College in Turkey Street, Enfield, Winchmore School, Latimer School in Hazelbury Road, Edmonton, and St Anne's High School for Girls in Oakthorpe Road, Palmer's Green. The event formed part of the Enfield Council Mayor's Award for Science, which sees gifted and talented students taking part in a series of competitive science and engineering activities.
The first female-only marathon in the UK is coming to Enfield this year. Cancer Research UK is calling on women in the borough to take part in the Race for Life marathon, which will be held at Lee Valley Park on Sunday, October the 4th. Lee Blake, Cancer Research UK's event manager for Race for Life marathon, said, "We are thrilled to be launching the first ever Race for Life marathon. Race for Life events are all about inclusivity, fun and female camaraderie, and the marathon is no different. Whether you're a marathon pro or a running novice, this brand new event offers an accessible and supportive environment for women of all abilities. It's not about how fast you run, it's about creating an unstoppable force of women who are united in the bid to beat cancer. The Race for Life Marathon is set to be an inspiring and exhilarating event, and we urge ladies to sign up now with their trainers at the ready. We know Enfield women are up for the challenge. For more information, visit raceforlife.cancerresearchuk.org.
Parents in Edmonton worried about the shortage of primary school places are being encouraged to sign their children up to the latest school in the borough that caters for pupils from aged 4 to 18. Edmonton County School in Littlebury Street celebrated its all-through status recently. As a result of a severe shortage of primary school places in the borough, Enfield Council was forced to look at new ways of expanding schools after the government stopped local authorities from opening new schools, preferring instead to let their free school programme fill gaps in provision. Last year, the council poured millions into refurbishing the Edmonton School, which formerly catered only for secondary-aged pupils. Although the school accepted its first intake of primary pupils in January last year, the recent celebration was the official opening of new facilities. The Cabinet Member for School and Children's Services, Aoife Orhan, said that by 2020 the primary part of the school would reach its full capacity of 420 pupils. Executive Head Teacher Dr. Susan Tranter added, "The school is equipped to do a first-class job. Our young children are settling in very well, enjoying their learning in superb surroundings. We are determined to see that every child who comes to Edmonton County gets the best from their education, and we now have the facilities and staff to make it happen."
A crack team of architects and planners is being assembled to start work on a major new development in Edmonton. The $1.5 billion Meridian Water project is expected to include 8,420 new homes and bring 3,000 new jobs to the borough. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Housing and Estate Regeneration, Ahmet Oykana, said, "The Council is currently putting together an expert team, including architects and planners, to drive the delivery of Meridian Water, and this work will guide the final shape of this exciting development. This is a fantastic scheme which will regenerate a key site in our borough and bring jobs and homes to the area, which will in turn help to drive growth and prosperity in Enfield and beyond. The architect's first task will be to prepare a design code which will set out the high quality of development which developers will be expected to meet. The design code will give residents and businesses in the area the chance to comment on the design quality of the scheme to make sure that Meridian Water fits in with existing communities.
It's a little-known fact, but Edmonton can claim a share of the glory for putting a man on the moon. The giant leap for mankind, which saw the first of a dozen American astronauts walk on the lunar surface back in the late 1960s and the 1970s, owes much to the NASA's Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston, Texas, where chief of the Advanced Mission Program was Dr. J. Hodge, an Edmonton lad who grew up in Forest Road and went to Hounsfield Primary School in Ripon Road, as well as Enfield Grammar School in Marketplace, Enfield Town, and the former Minchington School in Southgate. And if you thought unruly violent behaviour such as rioting and vandalism was a relatively recent phenomenon, then how about this headline from a 1949 edition of the Enfield Gazette? Hooliganism rampant in Enfield, public and private property damaged. These are just some of the fascinating gems of information contained in the latest volume of the History of Enfield series of books published by the Enfield Society, which had its official launch at the Dugdale Centre recently. It's 20 years since Volume 3, covering the period from 1914 to 1939, was published, and this sequel, titled A Time of Change, chronicles the 3 decades from 1939 to 1969. Packed with more than 200 photographs, it charts from an Enfield perspective the enormous social changes that occurred in Britain and their impact on the lives of residents. It includes the World War II years, when enemy aircraft and doodlebugs brought death and destruction of homes and industry, with the Edmonton and Ponders End areas a target for German bombers because of the government-owned arms factories along the River Lee, through the austerity of the 1940s and 50s and the establishing of the welfare state, the National Health Service and secondary education, to the swinging 60s when the boroughs of Edmonton, Enfield and Southgate were merged to form the London Borough of Enfield. It deals in detail with how the borough has been transformed, with chapters on leisure, health, education and industry, as well as one on the work of the Enfield Society in preserving and protecting the borough's treasured historic heritage. Author Monica Smith, a long-standing Enfield resident and member of the Enfield Society, took 2 years to research and write the book. Some things have undoubtedly changed for the better in the borough, and others have not, if you think about some of the badly located tower blocks that sprung up. But then again, they delivered better housing in the wake of slum clearance, she said. It's a regret that many buildings of outstanding architectural and historical interest have been lost, like Edmonton Town Hall, which was demolished before the Act enabling councils to locally list buildings of historic value came into being. Similarly, we have seen our high streets transformed, with supermarkets or flats replacing many old established shops and pubs. A Time for Change is published in hardback and costs £18.50. It's available from Waterstone Bookshop in Church Street, Enfield Town, and can also be obtained by post by sending a cheque made payable to the Enfield Society at its headquarters at Jubilee Hall, 2 Parsonage Lane, Enfield, EN2 6QB.
A £20,000 project to help ducks breed in a park has been completed. More than 80 metres of planters and floating duck islands were installed in Oakwood Park in Prince George Avenue, Southgate. The planters, fitted along the sides of the pond, contain coconut matting planted with aquatic plants to give birds places to breed and shelter from predators. The work was paid for by using money from developers to support infrastructure projects. Councillor Chris Bond said, "We are always looking for new ways to make our parks more attractive to wildlife and more diverse, and this project is an excellent way of doing this at no cost to the council."
Frank Buglioni made light work of his first WBO European super middleweight defence, stopping Ivan Djukic inside 90 seconds. but insists there is no sense of being unfulfilled after a first-round win. The 25-year-old from Enfield had Djukic on the canvas in the first round, and following a lethal combination, put the Croatian to bed for good at the O2 Arena. After preparing for the fight for weeks, with a training camp in Dublin with Steve and Pascal Collins, did a first-round knockout leave the wise guy disappointed he did not face more of a challenge? I always look for the positives, said Buglioni. You get a lot of upsets and things go wrong in boxing, so it is nice when things go right. It was a great camp for me in Dublin. Steve and Pascal Collins were great professionals, and every time I'm away with them, I learn so much. The fact I got him, Djukic, out there means I have less time off and get back into the gym quicker, which means I will be even better prepared next time, explained the 6'1" puncher. Buglioni continued, it was 90 seconds worth of work, so I can't really complain. He was given the full 6 weeks' notice for this fight, unlike his last fight against Chris Eubank Jr. So I expected a sterner test, to be honest, of my ability, and went in there prepared to fight whoever was put in front of me. I was in a great place, mentally and physically. I know I can hit hard, and when I can do real damage, and that is exactly what I did on the night, added Buglioni. And, as ever, plans are already being formulated for his next bout. I'm hoping to get back out there in April or May time, though nothing is decided yet, he said. Once that is decided, then I will head back out to Dublin again. If I stay injury and illness free, I can get back out there sooner. He continued, there are a couple of guys in the British rankings fighting for the Commonwealth titles, so I would like to get involved in that afterwards. Lee Markham, a local fighter from Essex, had been asking me for a fight, so again I would jump at the chance to fight him too. Buglioni was fighting on the Risky Business show at the O2 Arena in Greenwich, headlined by Tyson Fury, who forced Christian Hammer to retire in the 8th round. The first time the Winchmore Hill-born fighter has fought on the banks of the Thames. It was a fantastic venue, stated Buglioni. That and the Royal Albert Hall are my two favourite venues so far, but I do not think about it on the day. The day after is when it all sinks in, and that is when I appreciate just how lucky I am to be part of history.
We've reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Sally, Janet, Colin and Keith, and Robin on the controls, it's goodbye.
Bye.
Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.